produced a report. I'm going to read the title so that he can Google it right now, Mr. Speaker. It is called the Parliamentary Budget Officer's Report on the Distribution of Costs and Benefits under the Carbon Pricing Program. He can look at page 3, where every single province that has the tax sees middle-class Canadians and 60% of families paying more in tax than they get back in benefits. Why won't he get to know the facts and axe the tax?
Leader of the Opposition's campaign to simply axe the facts. We are going to continue to stand with the science, the evidence, the research, the economists who have all pointed out, including the Parliamentary Budget Officer, that the Canada Carbon Rebate puts more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 families in the jurisdictions across the country in which it is.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Ehren right here, Question Period Canada. Pretty excited to bring you some more highlights. It's been a while. This was another wild and wacky Wednesday. It was totally wacko, not like last week, but everybody wants to see this stuff. So, Poilievre versus Trudeau, it's getting hot. Trudeau actually, Canadians can just make up their own minds. I don't need to let you know what I think. But let's watch these guys go. They do not like each other. Another wacko Wednesday. Let's check it out. No Freeland today. It was a bonus. Let's check it out. Poilievre versus Trudeau. Let's go.
This Prime Minister is not worth the cost after 9 years. He's doubled the debt, doubled housing costs. He's increased spending by nearly 80%. What did we get for the money? The worst per-person income growth in the entire G7 and the worst mortgage debt of all of those countries. When will he realize that the more he spends, the worse things get?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives have been talking down the economy for a long time now without understanding that Canada has actually the strongest macroeconomic performance in the G7. And our perspective is to put that solid footing of the Government of Canada in service of Canadians by investing in housing, by investing in dental care, by investing in childcare, by investing in the supports that Canadians need in this difficult time. His solution is for governments to invest less in Canadians for ideological reasons, to be there less for people when they need it most.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, more proof that this Prime Minister is not worth the cost. He tells Canadians they've never had it so good. He doubled the debt, doubled housing costs, forced 2 million people to a food bank. He brags that he spends $87 billion on housing programs, and what did it get us? Got us the worst housing inflation of any country in the G7, the second worst out of nearly 40 OECD countries. Why does he always spend the most to achieve the worst?
Right. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think Canadians will take no lessons from a former housing minister who was in a government that didn't believe in investing in housing. Obviously, over decades, Mr. Speaker, the federal government had underinvested in housing, and it has led to the challenges we're facing now. That is why we are putting, and have been putting, in service of Canadians since 2017, the solid fiscal position of the federal government to invest in Canadians, to invest in communities, to invest in housing, to help solve this challenge that people are facing around the world, that we are solving despite.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he's absolutely right that we did not waste the billions of dollars that he's now put into his programs, but here are the results. The average rent for a one-bedroom when I was housing minister was $973, and we built 80,000 apartment units at that low rate when I was minister. Now the cost has more than doubled. Meanwhile, Stats Canada reports that incomes are down $17,000 per family. Why are Canadians making $17,000 less to pay double the price for a home?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Here's the question Canadians should be asking the Leader of the Opposition. Given that Canada has one of the strongest economic balance sheets in the G7 right now, country for country compared, should we be investing to support Canadians and create housing with that solid balance sheet, or should, as the Conservative leader is proposing, we cut programs, we reduce investment, and we do less for Canadians? We should be putting the strong fiscal position of this government in service of Canadians. That's what we're doing. That's what he opposes.
So what do you think, gang? Is Jagmeet like faking sick? It's hard to tell, but here's a closer look. Jagmeet does sound like he's not well.
Member from Burnaby South.
Canadians are struggling to put food on the table, and what are the Liberals doing? Well, they're giving $25 million to Costco and Loblaws. And what are the Conservatives doing? Well, the Conservatives, their leader is too busy whining and dining corporate lobbyists in private dinner clubs. New Democrats have a clear plan. We need to tackle corporate greed. We need to make sure we bring down the prices and stop giving millions of dollars to corporate grocery stores. When will the Liberals, when will the Prime Minister stop giving big grocery a free ride?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, not only are we continuing to move forward on our grocery code of conduct, but we're working on our project to make food more affordable through competition reforms. And now we're creating a national school food program, which is expected to provide meals for more than 400,000 kids a year and save the average family with 2 children as much as $800 per year on grocery costs. We're also ensuring the wealthiest pay their fair share. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, there are measures in the House right now that will crack down on predatory pricing, and the NDP has the opportunity to support us as it goes through this House.
L'honorable député de
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Have the courage to take on corporate greed, which is driving up the cost of food, but we do.
All right, gang, Jagmeet's boring. I'm tired of that guy too. Like, pension or not, doesn't matter. Let's watch Poilievre in action, hammering Trudeau for the next 25 minutes. Let's go, because Poilievre has a lot of punches to pull, if you know what I'm saying. Let's take a peek.
The NDP leader was just asking about why the Prime Minister gave tens of millions of dollars in corporate handouts to powerful grocery chains. So the answer, of course, is that he voted to let the Prime Minister do that. Not a single penny of that money could have gone without the vote of the NDP coalition partner. But we learned something else, that this might have been due to the influence of the NDP leader's spokesman and brother, whose company is a lobbyist for Metro. Would the Prime Minister support an investigation into whether or not the NDP leader's spokesman and brother has been unduly influencing the leader of the NDP?
The Right Honourable Prime... The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we can see very clearly that all the stories out about the lobbyists' connections with the Leader of the Opposition are actually hurting the Leader of the Opposition, which is why he's asking those questions of the NDP. But he has an opportunity right now, Mr. Speaker, to make it clear that he stands with Canadians and stands to ask the wealthiest to pay a little more by announcing now that he will support our measure on increasing the capital gains imposition on Canadians, asking the wealthiest to pay a little bit more. He has dodged that question since the budget came out. Does he support the increase on the capital gains inclusion rate?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I do support the Prime Minister paying more tax on the trust fund where he sheltered all of his money. Absolutely. He doesn't, unfortunately, support his own policies. That's why he won't put them into a budget bill. But one tax he is increasing is the carbon tax on food. He's doing it with the help of the NDP. We already have the second highest carbon tax in the entire developed world. And yet, if the NDP Liberal government is re-elected, they plan to quadruple that tax to 61 cents a litre on the farmers and truckers who bring us our food. How will Canadians afford to eat, heat, and house themselves?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Once again, Canadians saw that he avoided pronouncing on whether or not he supports our increase to the capital gains inclusions rate. But in regards to his deflection onto carbon pricing works. We are on track to meet our emissions for the first time in any government in Canadian history. And Canadians get more money back in their pockets thanks to the Canada Carbon Rebate. And families are already using that rebate to help pay their bills and plan their monthly budgets. Meanwhile, the Conservative leader continues to oppose every measure we put forward for both affordability and fighting climate change.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister, just like his carbon tax, is not worth the cost. The tax is already up to 17 cents a litre, higher than he promised it would go. And he plans to quadruple it further to 61 cents a litre. This after it is a proven environmental failure. Canada ranks 62nd out of 67 countries when it comes to fighting climate change. And this is precisely because what he has is a tax plan and not an environmental plan. Will he stop? Why won't he adopt our common sense plan for technology and not taxes?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if the Leader of the Opposition wants to present an actual plan to fight climate change, we'd love to see it, but he has refused to take any measure to fight climate change, period. He even doesn't recognize that pollution has a cost, which will only keep rising if we don't fight climate change, with extreme weather events and health impacts increasingly impacting on Canadians. Indeed, the Conservative leader thinks it should be free to pollute, and that we shouldn't be giving more money to Canadians through the Canada Carbon Rebate. We will continue to have an effective plan to fight climate change that is reducing emissions and putting more money back in Canadians' pockets with the CCR.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, since the Prime Minister introduced his carbon tax on the farmers who grow the food and the truckers who ship the food, it has raised the price on all who buy the food, with a record-smashing 2 million visits to food banks every single year. 50% of Canadians buying food past best before dates. 20% of them have gotten sick as a result of it. The Prime Minister promised that he was going to help the middle class and those working hard to join it. Now, the so-called middle class can't afford food in homes. Is that what he meant by help?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, according to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, 8 out of 10 Canadians, middle-income and lower-income Canadians primarily, do better with the Canada Carbon Rebate that lands in their bank accounts 4 times a year because of the price of pollution. But if the leader opposite actually cared about affordability and supporting vulnerable Canadians, he'd be standing up to support our measure on dental care, which has now delivered dental care to 30,000 vulnerable seniors across this country already in just a few weeks. He would be supporting our initiatives to help families. He'd be supporting our initiatives to help with childcare.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Oh, we have to do this all over again with him. The Parliamentary Budget Officer produced a report. I'm going to read the title so that he can Google it right now, Mr. Speaker. It is called the Parliamentary Budget Officer's Report on the Distribution of Costs and Benefits under the Carbon Pricing Program. He can look at page 3. Where every single province that has the tax sees middle-class Canadians and 60% of families paying more in tax than they get back in benefits. Why won't he get to know the facts and axe the tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
As opposed to the Leader of the Opposition's campaign to simply axe the facts, we are going to continue to stand with the science, the evidence, the research, the economists who have all pointed out, including the Parliamentary Budget Officer, that the Canada Carbon Rebate puts more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 families in the jurisdictions across the country in which it is, and is effective in bringing down our emissions while creating economic growth as we invest in cleaner technology and good jobs and careers for the future. We have a plan for the economy and the environment. He does not.
going to ask members, please. I know sometimes that members don't like hearing the question or the answer, but I'm asking all members, please, the only one who is standing up to, recognized by the Speaker, has the right to stand up and to ask a question. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, with his comedy routine, I was going to say that he shouldn't quit his day job, but actually, he should quit his day job. But he shouldn't go into number crunching, whatever his next job is, because he doesn't believe the economy is about numbers. And I don't blame him, because if I had his economic record, I wouldn't want to talk about numbers either. But it might help him to go to the library and quietly study just a little bit. Will he commit to reading page 3 of the Parliamentary Budget Officer's report, which demonstrates Canadians pay more than they get back in the tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Parliamentary Budget Officer and far many more experts and economists have clearly demonstrated that the money that returns to Canadians through the Canada Carbon Rebate 4 times a year is greater than 8 out of 10 Canadians pay every year with the price on pollution. Those are the simple facts, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to invest in Canadians. We will continue to support with affordability. We will continue to put the best balance sheet in the G7 in the service of Canadians through investments and support, unlike the cuts he's proposing. Hear, hear.
So, gang, this is the final round now. Like, Trudeau and Poilievre, you can tell they don't like each other, obviously, but they're mano a mano, tete-a-tete, I guess. And what do you think? Like, who's winning these arguments? It would seem to me that the polls indicate that Canadians seem to think that it's Poilievre winning these arguments, not Trudeau. What do you think? Leave it in the comments. Why do you think that? Like, what? Just share it in the comments. Like, best thing to do. Relieve yourself there. That's a good spot. Anyhow, here goes Trudeau and Poilievre head to head, mano a mano, tete-a-tete.
Across the country that has just failed in BC. He's now just announced he plans to spend even more tax dollars on narcotic opioids. According to the Vancouver Chief of Police, 50% of the recovered hydromorphone was originated with government programs handing it out as so-called safe supply. This program has led to a 166% increase in drug deaths across the country since it was brought in. Why won't he accept my common sense plan to stop giving out deadly drugs and start giving out treatment?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition proposes to return to the failed Harper-era approaches on opioids that their own former advisor, Benjamin Perrin, called obsolete and immoral. Mr. Speaker, over the past number of years, we've invested in a compassionate, science-based, evidence-grounded approach that includes harm reduction, that includes approaching with a public health lens on this. It also includes investing in housing, in mental health supports, in frontline workers, in addiction treatment and recovery programs. These are the things that move us forward, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, when we were in government, there were 60% fewer overdose deaths. This problem accelerated after he brought in these radical programs that are not done anywhere else to give corrupt pharmaceutical companies money to hand out more drugs. David McAvoy, an addiction outreach worker right here in Ottawa, says that he witnesses the so-called safe supply clients diverting their taxpayer-funded drugs to the black market, and that they are given, quote, an insane quantity of drugs. Will the Prime Minister stop giving out insane quantities of heroin-grade opioids and start bringing treatment so we can bring our loved ones home drug-free?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know that any Canadian would think that adding more ideology to our approach to public health, dealing with the opioids epidemic, is a solution, and yet that's the only thing that the Conservative Party seems to offer. We will continue to be grounded in a compassionate, science-based approach that works with local partners, that attempts to provide the kinds of wraparound services, whether it's housing, whether it's healthcare, whether it's addiction treatment and recovery, whether it's culturally appropriate services for those who need it. We will continue to be there to help heal people, not imprison them.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
They are there to help kill people right now. That's exactly what they're doing. And, Mr. Speaker,
I'm going to, colleagues, I'll be coming, colleagues. We are going to, the Speaker will come back to this issue. I'll allow the Honourable Member to continue his question. It's 24 seconds on the clock.
not only is his policy killing people, but this Prime Minister is by far the most radical ideologue who's ever occupied that job. Yes. But always with these radical policies comes profiteering. The companies that are making the money off of the opioids that are funded by Canadian taxpayers, and it is indeed sick, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister agree to release all of the contracts for those pharmaceutical companies?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are facing right across the country a toxic drug and opioid epidemic that is taking lives left, right, and center, that is hurting communities, that is hurting family members who are losing loved ones at an alarming rate that is something we need to respond to. And we have continued to work jurisdiction by jurisdiction in thoughtful ways to try and do everything possible to both keep communities safe and to keep families from suffering these further losses and support people struggling with addiction. We will continue to be grounded in evidence and support.
Right on. The Honourable Member from Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, as you know, more Canadians are now renting than ever before. These renters, many of whom are seniors or on fixed incomes, face rising rents and rent eviction threats. Can the Prime Minister tell this House what our government is doing to help them stay?
Colleagues, I know it is Wednesday. I know that members have come out of caucuses and they're ready to go, but it's really important that we take the opportunity to listen to the questions. It will be from the top because the Speaker can't help it. The Honourable Member from Vaughan Woodbridge from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, if I can make a point of order.
No, the Honourable Member is an experienced member. He knows that there are no points of order during question period. The Honourable Member can raise a point of order after question period. The Honourable Member from Vaughan Woodbridge from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, as you know, more Canadians are now renting than ever before. These renters, many of whom are seniors or on fixed incomes, face rising rents and rent eviction threats. Can the Prime Minister tell this House what our government is doing to help them stay in their homes and enjoy affordable and stable accommodation?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I agree with the member for Vaughan Woodbridge that more needs to be done for renters. That's why we're unlocking well over 600,000 new rental homes across the country for the middle class, investing $1.5 billion to keep affordable apartments affordable, and introducing a new Renters' Bill of Rights to protect renters. The Leader of the Opposition doesn't seem to worry about renters. He was housing minister in a government that pulled out of housing, and now he wants to raise the taxes on apartment construction and continues to delay debate on his own housing proposal because he knows it doesn't measure up. We will not rest until we level the playing field for renters.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
After 9 years, this Prime Minister is not worth the corporate crime and corruption According to the Criminal Intelligence Service, there is $113 billion a year of money laundering. That's the equivalent of twice the entire GDP of Nova Scotia. And that money laundering, all of it here in Canada, drives up housing costs, it pays for drugs and stolen cars. Why is it that the Americans had to be the ones to catch TD and charge them with money laundering linked to fentanyl? Why didn't our federal government crack down on that?
So, gang, what do you think? Pretty interesting day in the House of Commons, right? Like, they all are interesting days in the House of Commons. Somehow, we find a way here on Question Period Canada to find a way to show you an interesting story, something that you could possibly learn from. Maybe not, but we're trying. Like, that's all we can do. These videos are so much fun to make, guys. Like, I'm just trying my best to show Canadians what I'm seeing from the floor of the House of Commons, or from the committee meetings, or from wherever we get the sources. Like, we're trying to find out and share what is going on with Canadians about Canadian politics. I don't have a side besides yours. Like, I am on your side. So be on my side, like, subscribe, share, get notified, all that fun stuff. Just subscribe. That'd be cool. Or even like. We're trying to make these highlight videos and a lot of other Canadian content, federal politics information. Come and check that. I'm just learning. Whatever. Come check it out. I'm also growing a channel. I could tell you how to do that. But in the meantime, we're learning about Canadian federal politics right here. Pierre Poilievre, Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, whoever. We're learning together because, like, open-minded with the most of love in my heart. I want you to come back to my channel. I do want you to watch. I want you to learn with me and tell me how to teach you better. What information do you need? Anyways, I'm Ehren. This is Question Period Canada. We're going to get out of here for this video. Catch you next time. Thank you for watching this one. And we'll see you in the next video. Like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. Check out one of these videos that are floating around. All right.